This morning I'm going to show you how to sew a really straight seam using this. It's a sewing guide that I tape onto my machine. This is an example of the seam right here in a finished kite. You can see from the close-up that it's quite straight. Looks really good. Step number one, I'm going to fix my pieces together. I'm going to use hot tacking today. You can also do gluing, taping, or whatever your preferred method is. Our first stitch is going to be a 1/4 inch straight stitch. So I've set up my machine to do a straight stitch, and now I'm going to use this piece of cardstock with lines drawn every 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to line up the needle in the second line. Make sure it's nice and square. Lower the foot, and that looks good. The next step is to place the sewing guide up against the gauge and tape down the visible edge. With that secure, we can remove the gauge and tape down the other edge. Now we're ready to sew. Place the material in the machine under the foot, clamp her down, and as we guide it through the machine, we just gently push the material against the sewing guide and it should go straight through. There we be, the first stitch is done. The next step is to prepare for the next seam. We're going to fold the Dacron over. This forms the pocket on the kite that the leading edge spar actually goes into. We're going to fold it right up to the edge that we used for sewing before and crease it down. Then we fold it over and fold over the ripstop right over that seam that we just sewed. Press it all down so it's nice and tight. And we're going to sew right down that line with a zigzag this time. So here I've repositioned the gauge to the first 1/8 inch line, so that'll give us a 1/8 inch centered zigzag. And now I'm going to position the sewing guide and tape it down. Now with the sewing guide put down and the machine is now set to do my zigzag, we put the material down and we push the edge up against the sewing guide. It's barely visible here, but you're pushing it up against the guide underneath the material. And now we're ready to sew. And we just sew along, gently pushing the material up against the sewing guide and pulling this material to the side so it's all tight up against the sewing guide. And here's your finished seam. Dead straight, looking very good. That's how you use it. Good luck.